What's up, everybody? So in this video I'm bringing you a tutorial for Blender, the 3D modeling and animation software. It is free, it is open source, and I will post a link in the description below if you would like to download it. So for this tutorial I'm basically going to be going over three of the major ways of animation. So this video will assume, for one, that you know the basic UI of Blender, how to navigate the menus, how to add objects to the scene, and so on. Other than that, this is pretty basic. I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible. I'm going to try to go slow, and let's get started. So this is the basic scene of Blender. This is what you'll open it up to. All we have is a cube, a lamp, and a camera. Now, I'm not going to need those right now. So, here's a cube, and what we're going to do, I'm going to name it, this one I'm just going to name Object, because this is going to be the first type of animation that I call object animation. And what that means, that's what I call it anyway. What I'm going to be doing with this is showing you how to use keyframes with the object itself. No mesh editing, no skeletons or anything like that. That will come a little later. So for this cube, if you want to animate it, this is the simplest kind. First, all you have to do, let's say you want it to be right here first. You press I on the keyboard, and you select one of these. So I'm going to go with location and rotation, this one right here. And that will save the keyframe on the timeline here to whatever frame you have selected. It'll save its location and the rotation of the current state. So if we, whoops, I hit the wrong one. If you press, okay, this is a good example. If you press Alt and then I, you can delete keyframe, which will delete, it'll delete the current keyframe, whatever data is held on the current frame you have selected. And also you can just use this to scrub across the timeline. So, let's say we want to do location and rotation. So now you'll notice these turn yellow. You can also press I from here and turn them on or off. So I'm going to delete that one more time, and then simply location rotation. Now, let's say we want it to go to frame 20, and suddenly it moves over here. And then, let's say it rotates something like this. I'm pressing R to do that. And if you double tap R, by the way, you can rotate in the other axes that aren't facing your direction. So let's do that. I, location, rotation. And now, if you scrub across the timeline, you will see that it rotates as many times as I swung it around. So it will rotate and move over here, as you can see. Now, one more thing I'll get into with this. I'm not going to go too in depth, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something called the dope sheet. So the dope sheet, this is what holds your animation data for the individual, every piece of data that each keyframe holds for the selected object or bone or whatever you're working with. So what I'm going to do is you can simply, from here, you can actually copy keyframes. You can select individual ones, like the individual X location, and so on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to frame, let's see, how about frame 40? We're going to select the, where is it? Yeah, so we're going to just select all of it, actually. And we're going to copy the first frame, Control C, and we're going to paste that at the selected frame, or the selected, the selected frame. So we copied this data with Control C, location, rotation, and we're going to paste it to frame 40. And now that we've done that, we have the same frame where it started, the same data, happening at frame 40 and frame 1. So if we do this, and then we'll go back. And those are the key elements of how that works. You can use keyframes with many properties of objects, not just the location, rotation, and scale. There's a few other things you can do. So next, I'm going to actually add a new cube, Shift A, and we're going to go with another cube right here. If you hold Control and drag, it will snap to the grid snap that you have here. And then, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to excuse me. This one is going to be using shape keys. Now, for those of you who don't know what shape keys are, they're basically, well, I mean, they're pretty much what they say. They're keyframes that hold data for the individual vertices on the selected object. So, here's how you set up a keyframe. I'll give you an example of what it can do. So the first thing we're going to want to do is add a vertex group. And I'm going to name this one box. So I'm going to go into edit mode, tab, select faces right here, E to extrude, S to scale it down, whoops, and then I'm going to simply extrude it again out this way and do that. Now, to assign this vertex group, which is, I mean, it's just what it says, it's a group of vertices, we're going to take this and we're going to get all of those vertices on this little handle type thing, and we're going to hit assign. So now, if we hit A to unselect everything and select our box, it selects those vertices. So, now, what we're going to do is, here is the shape keys. So, what we want to do here is add a new shape key, and this will add automatically what's called the basis. Now, here's an important thing about shape keys. You want to try, you really want to use them after you know you're finished with the model, because the first shape key is, the basis shape key is always going to be it holds data for what the original model is, whereas your other shape keys will hold data for what it is modified, blended. So, what we're going to do, now that basis is created, it knows that this is the original shape. If we add another shape key, I'm going to call this move handle. So with move handle selected, we're going to go in and we're simply going to, okay, so the value set at 0, it's relative, which means it's going to work relative to the what it's currently at. Now, what we're going to do is take all these vertices again, and we're going to move it over here, right there. And then we're going to do this. No, actually, that's good enough. Just simple enough. So we moved it there. And now, if we go back, as you see, it snapped back to here. It snapped back to basis. If we select this, and we do value, and drag it up, you'll notice it moves. And you can set the range for whatever you want. So I'm going to do -1 to 1. And when I drag it backwards, it does the opposite. So you can see this could be useful for many things. This could be useful for making a sliding door. It can be useful for maybe this is one thing that could be useful for if you have a door and then you have a wall. You could kind of use this to maybe shrink the door as a shape key, when the parts of it that go behind the wall, so you can't see it behind a wall. That kind of thing. This can be used for, you know, it can be used for a lot of things. I'm trying to think of better examples, but you know, doors is probably one of the number one things. But you could use it for moving objects from sliding one area to another, things like that. One of the number one uses, though, is facial expressions on characters, because with characters, you could have a shape key for the eyes, the upper eyelid being open or closed, the mouth, the how wide your jaw is, and things like that. You can use shape keys for things as complex as that, or as simple as just moving this little handle. Now, that covers the bare basics of shape keys. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to add another cube, and this one is going to be using the armatures. And an armature, also again for those who don't know, an armature is simply a skeleton. It's a set of bones that the bones control sets of vertices on a mesh. And when these bones move or rotate, it rotates those pieces with them. So you would be able to move like an arm and bend its shape and things like that. So the thing about armatures is that they need to be able to move the mesh. But if you have, for instance, if I take those out, if you only have a mesh that has these 8 vertices, then if I were to make a bone, actually I'll just use an example. I'm going to add an armature. First I'm going to hit Shift S and then cursor to selected. That'll put the cursor where the object I'm selecting is. Shift A, armature, single bone, and now I'm going to go into the object properties and set it to X-ray. That way we can always see it. Now I'm going to place this where the end is at the bottom and the top is at the top of the cube. So here's the thing, if I were to assign this mesh to this bone, which I'm going to name cube bone, what would happen is all it would do is move the cube because there's nothing else for it to attach to. And you'll see what I mean by that in 1 second. So if I take this cube, shift right click on this, and then I do Control P, a lot of the time, probably most of the time, especially with the characters, you're going to want to use with automatic weights, but I'll run through what some of these do. Object will simply parent the mesh to the bone. So when the bone moves, the object moves. Keep transform, same thing, but the object doesn't snap to it. Armature deform. So these are some more complex options, but automatic weights, what that one does, that's the most important one here, in my opinion at least. Automatic weights will automatically try to find the best vertices to assign this bone. So if we select it and go into, well, first if we select the mesh and go into weight paint mode, you will see it's all red because the bone, there's only one bone and there's only 8 vertices, and these are all the closest proximity to the bone. And what that means is that this bone has all the weight on the entire object. So if we were to move this bone in, this is pose mode by the way, if you go back to the bone, you notice I went into here and selected pose mode. When you're animating with an armature or skeleton or whatever you want to call it, pose mode is where you'll move the individual bones, and you will see that it's working the entire thing. Now here's something really cool and something you'll have to use a lot. Weight paint. With the weight paint, if I were to go into here and select subtract right here, you have your weight, the amount it influences, the strength, which is the strength is how much it applies per brush stroke, and then the radius is self-explanatory. So I'm going to subtract from that single vertex. Now subtracting from that vertex means when I move this bone, that one is not going to move. The rest of them will, but that one won't, as you can see. So it's very useful for, you know, like an arm, you want to assign the correct vertices. Now, it needs to be able to bend and deform a mesh, it needs more vertices. So if you want it more accurately, one thing we could do is go into edit mode on the bone, or armature, select this one, press W, and then we're going to do subdivide. That will split this into two separate bones. Now, what we're going to do now is go into the cube, and we're going to add at least a few, how about right there. We'll add this many loop guts with Control R. So now we have all these vertices. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and we're actually going to unparent this. So it's not parented to that anymore. And we're going to get rid of the armature, or the armature modifier. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing as before. So select the cube, select this, press Control P, and then select, whoops, wrong one, I did that wrong. This, select this, Control P, automatic weights. And now, if we go into pose mode with that, and then edit weight paint with this, excuse me, you'll notice that this bone is closer to these vertices, and this bone is closer to these, and it's automatically assigned the weights. So if I were to move this, you can see it's, you know, it's moving the way we want it to. And in a few seconds here, I'll demonstrate how these work with keyframes, just like the object mode one. So, and I'm actually going to go to add, and I'm going to add weight to these vertices. That. So now it will move those completely. This has full control over those bones. And we're going to go into here and subtract it. And since I've subtracted those vertices from this bone, that means this upper bone has 100% control over those vertices. I'm going to go back to add and do the same thing for the bottom. Do this. And as you've probably already guessed, warmer colors mean more weight is applied with that bone, and colder colors, blue and so on, is less. And this is the most, and this blue is the least. So now, if I move it, you will notice, go back in pose mode, it does not affect the bottom anymore. And you'll notice it looks pretty interesting. So you can get some interesting shapes with that. Now, let's say we want to animate this. This is where this can come in again. What we're going to do is go back to 1 on the timeline. And then we're going to do, let's say, I'm going to save this one's rotation, I, at the first keyframe. And then, at frame 20, I'm going to save this one's rotation doing this. Rotation right there. Now with the bottom one, I'm going to go to frame 10. Whoops. Here's something I forgot to mention. You'll notice they're shaped like these triangles, or prisms. What this means is that this point, whatever is connected to the end of this point, is going to always follow this. So you can think of this as the base bone. So this will always follow this guy. So this one moves individually, and this one moves all of it, because this one controls that bone. So now we're going to save this one's rotation like that. Whoops, I'm sorry. Save it where it is now, and then go to frame 30, and then rotate it. About like that. Rotation. Now, if you select both of them, you'll see they have their separate keyframes. When you play that back, you'll see that that's what it does. And that, my friends, is how you animate with armatures. And of course, these can get much more complex. You know, these are I don't know what I just said there. These are what are used when making characters. You know, humanoids, monsters, whatever kind of organic creatures you want to use. One more thing I should actually mention. Let's say you wanted to make a robot. Now, obviously, with a robot, it's going to look a little bit weird if metal is bending like this, right? There's a very, very good way to solve that. You can use multiple objects. So, I will go into here, and I will simply go into edit mode, select these vertices. I turned on this this mode, which this button right here enables you to select through it. You can see through it and select vertices and faces behind the ones that are immediately visible. Now I'm going to press P and separate that part by a selection. Actually, you know what, this is a bad idea. I'm going to restart this part because these are already weight bound. So what I'm going to do, make a new cube, add a new armature, single bone, and again X-ray, and then I'm going to again subdivide it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cube, alright, and I'm going to separate it into two parts. And of course it probably would have just been easier to you know, make two cubes, but I didn't think about that. Now I'm going to do, alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this whole part and move it up, and you can see it got rid of the face in between them, or there's no face in between them, I mean. If you press F while selecting a set of vertices that make a loop, it will it'll create a face between them, as you can see. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Create a face, and now we have these two different cube objects. So, if you're going to make a robot and you wanted to use a skeleton, all you really have to do is this. Go into pose mode, then you're going to select, let's say, this object, and select this bone, Control P. Now this one we're only going to select bone, not weights, because we don't want weight with this one. We only want full object parenting. And then we select this object, and we move it down a little bit, and select this bone. Whoops. There we go. Oh wait, I see what's going on. Select, hold on. It's not letting me select that bone. Okay. There we go. My mouse is acting up a little bit. One moment. Actually, I think... oh goodness. I cannot seem to select that bone. Let me try moving this a little bit out of the way. There we go. No, wait. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. My mouse has been acting up, so I'm not sure why that happened. Now, if we have this object, we're going to press Control P, bone, and now this bone is controlling this object, and this bone is controlling this object. Let's test it out. So this moves it all, and this moves that. And so let's say we were going to animate this thing swinging around like a crane, and in fact I'm going to edit this to have kind of a long crane-like piece on it. Let's do some of that. Now, let's, alright, so we're going to take this one, and I'm going to go to frame 1, hit I, rotation. Then I'm going to go to frame, say, 60. I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees on the Z-axis. I, rotation. And now, you'll see it moves just that part. There's no, there's no bending involved if this were metal. Because, metal doesn't bend like skin does, obviously. So that means you can make efficient robots. And you can link as many of these bones together as you want. I'm only using 2 to make it simple. But yeah, you can use as many of these as you want. And of course, this can all be combined if you want to. Everything we've seen today, this can all be combined into one, one character, or a cyborg robot thing, that kind of stuff. You could have a half robot, half human thing using these two, and then shape keys for the face and things like that. And there you go. So that is all I'm going to cover for now. These are the basics of these 3 types of animation. And if you like the video, like it and subscribe if you feel like it. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.